This is the Nobel Prize. And this is Alfred Nobel, the creator of the Nobel Prize. And this is death and destruction caused by one of Alfred's most famous inventions, the dynamite.
Dynamite?
Dynamite.
Dynamite.
Dynamite?
We all heard of the Nobel Prize, arguably the most prestigious award any human could ever receive. And the list of recipients is nothing short of legendary. We have Theodore Roosevelt, Marie Curie, Martin Luther King, and the list goes on. And what do they all have in common? They have achieved things that change the world for the better. But here is the strange part. Alfred Nobel, the man who founded this humanitarian award, also invented dynamite. A creation that's been used in wars and that is chaotic and destructive in nature. So, how does someone go from creating such a dangerous invention to honoring the world's greatest peacekeepers? It's a story of fascinating contradictions. Let's step back in time. Alfred Nobel was born in Stockholm, Sweden on October 21st, 1833. He was the third of four sons of Emanuel and Carolina Nobel. His father, Emanuel, was an engineer and inventor known for building bridges and experimenting with explosives for construction projects. Sounds like a pretty clear origin of Alfred's own fascination with explosives, right? In 1836, when Alfred was just a child, his father's business ventures in Sweden were struggling. Facing bankruptcy, Emanuel moved the family to St. Petersburg, Russia, where he started an engineering firm. This time, things worked out big time. The Nobel family began manufacturing explosives for the Russian military, and success soon followed. With newfound wealth, Alfred received the best education he could get. By the age of 16, he was already a skilled chemist and fluent in 5 languages. Not bad for a teenager. In 1850, he left Russia for Paris to continue his chemistry studies. That's where he met Italian chemist Ascanio Sobrero, the inventor of nitroglycerin, a highly explosive liquid that was far too unstable to be widely used. This discovery left a lasting impression on young Alfred. After a stint in the US, Alfred returned to Russia, where he started experimenting with ways to harness nitroglycerin explosive power, which was far more potent than gunpowder, but dangerously unpredictable. Meanwhile, the Nobel family business was struggling again, especially after the Crimean War ended in 1859. Because yes, wars are devastating, but for some, they're also big business. But we'll save that topic for another day. In 1863, the family returned to Sweden. Alfred kept experimenting with nitroglycerin, determined to find a safer way to use it. However, tragedy struck in 1864, when a devastating explosion killed Alfred's younger brother and several workers at his factory. It was a stark reminder of how dangerous this material was, but Alfred persisted. By 1866, in a remote and safer location, Alfred made a breakthrough. He discovered that mixing nitroglycerin with a fine sand called kieselguhr turned the unstable liquid into a paste. This mixture was much safer to handle and could be molded into rods for easy use in drilling. He named it dynamite, from the Greek word dynamis, meaning power. Alfred, the inventor, was born. Dynamite became essential for building railways, blasting tunnels, and constructing canals. Alfred's invention wasn't meant for war. It was a tool for progress. But like many inventions, it was soon weaponized, which begs the question, is it a scientist responsible for how their invention is used? Let me know what you think in the comments. According to Austrian Countess Bertha von Suttner, a pacifist and close friend of Alfred, he once expressed a wish to create something so powerful it would prevent wars altogether. He believed that if leaders knew their armies will be obliterated in an instant, they'll avoid conflict. In his words,
"Perhaps my factories will put an end to war sooner than your congresses. On the day that two armies can annihilate each other in a second, all civilized nations will recoil with horror and disband their troops."
But Nobel never lived to see the full impact of his invention. He passed away in 1896, just before the First World War and the horrors it unleashed. Albert Einstein later said, "Alfred Nobel invented an explosive more powerful than any known before, a highly effective means of destruction. To atone for this accomplishment and to ease his conscience, he created his prize for the promotion of peace." Nobel's final will led to the creation of the Nobel Prize, which we know today. His fortune was to be distributed across 5 categories, including physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and of course, peace. Was his last will a result of the strong influence of his pacifist friend Countess Bertha von Suttner? Or was this a way of counterbalancing the devastating effects of his most famous invention? A creation that earned him the nickname the Merchant of Death. This is something we'll never know. Alfred Nobel was a complex figure. He shows us that no one is purely good or evil. Life is a balancing act, and we're all just trying to navigate it the best we can. Nobel created something destructive, yet he left behind a legacy of peace. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!